Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on TNT for another day. We'll bring you up to date with all the latest news from around Thailand. Before we do that though, we're just going to eavesdrop on 5 Star Marine. They've just installed a permanent camera on top of their main office. Let's go to it. Let's see. Oh, look at that. So there we go. In fact, there right in the middle of the picture, fortuitously, is a 5 Star Marine boat heading out to take some people out to the islands today. So that's actually looking north from their office, and as you can see, just a beautiful day, flat calm, a few high-level clouds, and I think people are going to be having a very nice day indeed. So, as I say, of course, if you'd like to head out to the islands on a private tour, then go to 5starmarinephuket.com. There is a link in the description under this video. But from there, we move on to our main story, and it's going to be about the 45-day visa exemption. Now, there was one news broadcaster yesterday that said it's a 45-day visa extension. Well, in fact, it's not a visa. It's the absence of a visa. Now, for people coming from, I think it's about 50 countries, you can enter Thailand at the moment and get visa-free arrival. In other words, when you come in, they'll stamp you in your passport. So you don't have to apply for a visa. It's not a visa, it's a visa exemption. It used to be 30 days, but from October they extended it to 45 days for the people from those countries. Now, it was meant to end that promotion on March the 31st, but it looks like they're going to extend it. The Bangkok Post alluded to it last week with a sort of a botched quote from the Tourism and Sports Minister. But in fact, the only place I could actually find a proper story that's written correctly was, would you believe, all the way from Vietnam. And this is from the VN Express. Thailand plans to extend 45-day visa-free stay policy until the end of the year. So what might have been finishing on March the 31st could be going through to the end of the year. Let's check what the story says. The Tourism Authority of Thailand says it's proposed, so it's a proposal only, to prolong the 45-day visa-free stay policy for foreign tourists until the end of this year to boost the recovery of tourism. And starting from October last year, citizens from over 50 countries that are eligible for visa exemptions were allowed to stay in Thailand for up to 45 days. Currently, the policy will be in effect until March the 31st. And thanks to the open visa policy, Southeast Asia's second largest economy received 11 million foreign tourists last year, making its tourism industry among the fastest to recover. And down the bottom there, the Thai government is targeting 25 million foreign arrivals this year. Okay, so if this happens, it'll mean past March the 31st, you might be able to arrive in Thailand visa-free for up to 45 days and then extendable, if the policy continues, for another 30 days. If you pop down to immigration, pay them 1,900 baht, you can usually get an extension for another 30 days. For those people who are getting visa on arrival, and that means that when you arrive at the airport, you have to apply for a visa, stamp. It used to be for 15 days. That's already been extended to 30 days, and you were able to extend for another 15 days for the visa on arrival program. No suggestion at the moment if that's going to be extended, but if they extend the visa exemption program of 45 days to the end of the year, no reason why they wouldn't extend the other visa. But so many of our local media here in Thailand completely botched the headline, and I had to go to a publisher in Vietnam to get the wording right. Crazy, isn't it? Anyway, this is TNT. It is Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week, and we've got some changes. Well, you can sort of start to see the changes around here happening as I'm completely rearranging my living room to accommodate Nick, who will be joining us full-time from next Monday. We'll be doing a daily live program with a few new toys, and that's either going to be a wonderful success or a complete disaster. We're about to find out, but for all those people that have very kindly given us some money on those Saturday programs, completely unsolicited, but your generosity is being spent well, and we've bought some new equipment. Might even buy myself some new shirts. You're watching TNT. Just harking back to that last story, there was a comment at the bottom of the VN Express story. It says, great idea, 45 days free visa exemption. That can be extended another 30 days. That's over 10 weeks to kick back and have a look around the country. And if you're over 50 and have enough money to prove that you can support yourself without the need to work, you can get a 12-month retirement visa for $57, renewable annually, and stay as long as you like. Sounds like it was written by somebody from the immigration department or a visa agent. That person also then goes on to bemoan the situation in Vietnam, which doesn't have anything like a retirement visa. In fact, it encourages you to actually get a job in Vietnam, which is actually very difficult. So that was an interesting comment. Also a comment from one of our regular viewers, and this is from Dam1, and I just thought I'd pass on his experiences of arriving back in Thailand. He says, returned to Thailand at the weekend, Tim, and I must say how straightforward it was after the mini restriction scare. Not even the TM6, I think it's the TM6 he's referring to, on board is required anymore. KLM from UK, no masks, no paperwork required, not a mention of anything. Took less than 10 minutes to go through a much improved immigration system at Suvarnabhumi Airport. Have to agree, the immigration has been impeccable. The last couple of times I've come back through the turnstiles. Of course, it's very much a chance thing. If 3 Russian charter flights arrive before you arrive at the respective airport, you're going to have some delays. But it looks like he at least had a good experience, saying be aware that airport taxi fares have gone up at least 25%, 2,000 baht. Minimum to Jomtien, so that's Suvarnabhumi to Jomtien Beach in Pattaya, and the buses were fully booked too for at least 2 hours after touchdown. Just happy to be back in Jomtien though. Hope you are well. Yes, I am. Thank you very much to Dam1, and appreciate your ongoing support of the program. To our next story today, and Nation Thailand says that 3 generals among 80 immigration police charged in triad visa scam. Now this massage is starting to really blow up, and started as a tip-off from a former soapy massage owner turned politician, and now he's spilling the beans on some of these rorts. Let's go on to the story. Investigators believe at least 80 immigration police officers, 3 of whom are generals, have been aiding about 5,000 members of Chinese triad criminal gangs to stay illegally in Thailand. The suspects have been summoned to hear charges filed against them, which include malfeasance and demanding bribes. Officials were found to have issued student and other visas to some 3,000 Chinese nationals in the northeast, more than 1,000 in the north from 2020 to 2021, allowing them to stay in Thailand and engage in, well, I think the word should be alleged, illegal operations. And among the 5,000 recipients is the owner of Club One, a famous entertainment venue in Pattaya, which police suspect is a triad base of operations. Authorities have so far confiscated assets valued at 5.3 billion baht from Chayanat. He's the main suspect, also known as Tu Hao, including real estate, buses, bank deposits, businesses and an aircraft. The Justice Ministry announced last week that it's seizing another 3 billion baht in assets owned by Chayanat and people in his network, noting that his wife is also a police officer. She's also been arrested. So that story just keeps on growing, and it looks like it's digging deep into the bowels of the immigration police in Thailand. To our next story today, and this from Phuket-go.com, Phuket's New Year tourist surge levels off. Now, this story is about Phuket, but I'm thinking that it's probably going to be able to be fairly well mapped over the rest of Thailand as well. So let's go to this story, and it says that from December the 25th to this week, the daily arrival numbers have hovered between 9.5 and nearly 13,000 people, but the average has flatlined since December the 15th last year, and the graph at the bottom of the infographic below suggests a mild softening in demand since last year. Let's go to that infographic, and you can see down the bottom there's a graph showing the growth of tourism over the past, that graph actually is since the beginning of last year. But you can see right down the end there, we've got the peak at Christmas and New Year, and now the numbers just starting to drop off a little bit. But the graph at the top also shows the daily arrivals. More importantly, let's go to this one. So these figures from the start of November until the 14th of January, number one, Russia with nearly 210,000 arrivals, certainly way, way, way above the number of arrivals from second India, then Australia, and then you've got the UK. Number five there. Let's play Name This Flag. Do you know what that flag is? I actually had to go and look it up, but I was halfway through looking it up, and I then remembered who that large number of arrivals would be. Can you guess that flag? It's Kazakhstan. And if you would have said to me 5 years ago, one of the largest number of tourists, or in the top 5 arrivals in Phuket, were from Kazakhstan, I would have thought you were completely insane. But there you go. Then you got Singapore, Germany, Malaysia. We've got Americans down there and South Koreans. So that is the people arriving in Phuket at the moment. And that huge surge of people coming in over Christmas and New Year just starting to level off and dip a little bit. And I thought this was an interesting paragraph at the bottom. An average of the numbers coming to Phuket in the period from November the 1st to January the 14th indicates just under a third of the tourist traffic Phuket was experiencing pre-2020, the last full year of travel before the COVID-19 pandemic. So despite it being it would seem to be absolutely packed over Christmas and New Year, certainly in the tourist traps in Phuket, that number is still, those daily arrivals are still under a third of the number of tourists that used to arrive back in 2019. So interesting statistic there. Let's go to another story from Phuket-go.com and next steps for a road bridge to Koh Samui. So, okay, this is Koh Samui, which has had all sorts of problems during the pandemic, mostly because it's just a little bit difficult to get there. So the proposal has been to build a bridge across the Gulf of Thailand from the mainland to the island of Samui. And that's an artist's impression of the actual bridge. It's quite a long bridge. We'll get into that in a sec. But what's that, a sort of a party town in the middle of the bridge construction? So the story says that the 15-kilometre bridge, that's from the closest point of Koh Samui to the mainland, would be a major boon to the island that's only serviced by a car ferry and one airline. And down the bottom there, it says that tourism stakeholders are always complaining that the island is hampered by a monopoly by Bangkok Airways, who own and manage the only airport on the island, a cash cow for the airline, but the high fares have been a major impediment for growth of tourism. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to get that one forward. It's saying it could happen by the end of the decade, and it's now backed by EXAT, which are, who are they? They're the Expressway Authority of Thailand. So money's being thrown at this, and they're currently doing a feasibility study, and it would be a great service to the island of Samui. Of course, some of the people there would say, oh, no, we like it the way it is, thank you very much. I remember trying to catch the ferry there a few times, and it's not particularly easy. You sometimes arrive, if you don't pre-book, you might have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes to actually get a ferry across to the island from Don Sak. Some people do weekend trips. You can drive from Phuket to Don Sak, which is about a 5-hour drive across the Isthmus of Kra, and you get to the Gulf of Thailand, and then you just have to jump onto the ferry. I'm not sure if Bangkok Airways are still doing the flight. They were running a flight from Phuket Airport to Koh Samui as well. Bangkok Airways in a turboprop. I'm not sure if they're still running that 45-minute trip. You're watching TNT. If you haven't already done so, it'd be great if you could just click the subscribe button below. You're not going to be sent any invoices. There's no money involved. It just really helps propel our channel. And I'm going to have to really propel it because I've got to pay Nick from now on. The end of that story says that the car ferry trip can take up to 2 hours and is at the mercy of the weather and sea conditions a problem during the annual monsoon. So certainly that 15-kilometre bridge would be a huge boon to the future of Koh Samui. Now, just some regional news now, and this is from the Straits Times. China's population shrinks for the first time in over 60 years. And China's population shrank last year for the first time in more than 6 decades. That's official data showing that the world's most populous nation faces a looming demographic crisis. That's partly to do with the fact that it's now getting an ageing population in comparison to the people that are being born. And also they had the one-child policy that, for a whole lot of reasons I won't go into now, ended up with a whole lot of additional males. So the number of males to females, the ratio is completely out of kilter now. Let's go on with that story, and it says the drop, the worst since China's Great Famine of 1961, also lends weight to predictions that India will become the world's most popular nation this year. The government, this is the Chinese government I suppose, said on Tuesday that 9.56 million people were born in China last year, while 10.41 million people died. That decline, coupled with a long-running rise in life expectancy, is thrusting China into a demographic crisis that will have consequences in this century, not just for the country and its economy, but for the world, according to experts. So quite a lot of data did come out yesterday, and we also got some numbers about the Chinese economy. And this story reported in the BBC.com. China 2022 economic growth hit by coronavirus restrictions. Official figures, this is the second paragraph, show the gross domestic product of the world's second largest economy rose 3% in 2022. Mind you, 3% would be a figure that a lot of Western countries would be very happy with indeed at the moment. But of course, China's been having a lot of much higher growth, so a 3% number is quite small. That is way below the government's target of 5.5%, but better than most economists had forecast. The second paragraph there, other than at the start of the pandemic, when full-year GDP expanded by only 2.2%, last year's economic growth was the weakest since 1976, when the founder of the People's Republic of China, Mao Zedong, died. And the deputy China economist from BNP Paribas Bank told the BBC that the data came in stronger than our expectation. Nevertheless, it reveals the hard hit to the Chinese economy from a zero COVID policy and a property rout in 2022. And experts are voicing caution over Chinese economic numbers, with some warning that the trajectory of the data, rather than the figures themselves, are a useful guide to how the country's economy is performing. So there are a lot of people that, of course, cast a lot of doubt about China's numbers. But of course, if you do follow the trends, I think that, like the COVID data, the actual numbers may not be exactly correct, but following the trends is important. And for those people out there, and I know there are quite a few people in our comments section that always seem to come down on China and wish the country bad, with it being the second largest economy, the best we can really do is wish the economy and the people in China well. Because if China goes bad and their economy turns down, that will affect the rest of the world. So I think we should always keep in mind that when we're talking about these countries, we're talking about people as well. And in this case with China, 1.6 billion people. So let's just ease up a little bit. You certainly criticise the government and their policies, but just leave the people alone, because just like you, they're battling to try and feed their family, pay the bills, and look forward to the next day as well. Now to this next story about an explosion in Samut Songkhram, which is southwest of Bangkok. And the only caveat on this is that it was quite difficult to get stories that agreed with each other as far as the numbers of missing and injured. This one seemed to be the most up-to-date. So we'll go with this. 7 missing in deadly tanker blast southwest of Bangkok. An oil tanker exploded at a quay in Samut Songkram's Muang, that's the city district, yesterday morning, killing at least 1 person, 7 still missing, and 4 people were reported injured in the blast, which reportedly occurred during welding maintenance work on a tanker. The blast happened at 9 a.m. as the tanker was moored at the quay for maintenance in Lam Yai subdistrict at the mouth of the Mae Klong River. And so here we go, up the top there. And you can see the blast. If you missed that, I'll just sort of rewind. Are you ready? So look up at the top of the screen and you'll see the explosion happening. There it goes. So a pretty huge explosion, and I'm surprised that a lot more weren't caught in that particular conflagration. Just finally today, just a bit of a good news story as I sort of rewind back through my screenings here. Man, God, how much have I done today? And this from Hua Hin Today, a nice little story saying that this beach in Prachuap Khiri Khan was the most searched for in Thailand in 2022. We alluded to this story last week on TNT and read out a whole lot of these most searched for beaches, and I didn't know many of them, but Hua Hin Today has gone out of their way to tell us about this one. A beach in Prachuap Khiri Khan has been revealed as the most searched for in Thailand, according to data from Google. Botonglay Bay in Prachuap Khiri Khan was found to be the beach with the most direction requests and interactions on Google Maps. And it's located in Bang Sapan. Here we go. This is it. Look at that. What a beautiful little beach that you would call Instagrammable. So very beautiful little beach, Botonglang Bay. So let's check out where this little beach is. Quite an interesting geographical phenomenon there. Let's see where it is. Up the top there, you've got Bangkok, we've got Pattaya there, and the circle is where Hua Hin is. And then about an hour and a half south, the arrow pointing to where this particular little beach is, which is called Botonglang Bay, and certainly a place that I would like to visit. I drove past there twice last week. If I'd known about that beach there, I certainly would have dropped in and taken a shot myself. Let's drop in one more time to 5-Star Marine Action Cam. Well, hardly action, sitting up there on top of the officers of 5-Star Marine, the camera facing north, and it looks like a very nice day indeed. And they're heading there out of Boat Lagoon in Phuket. There is a link in the description below to our sponsor 5-Star Marine. I thank them, and I thank you very much for dropping into TNT today. In fact, I've enjoyed myself so much, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Hope you join us then.